All right. So, picking up where we started yesterday, we're gonna continue, and this is gonna be part two of the mean wall. Okay, so yesterday, just to recap, we built out the login and registration section. We hooked it up. It works. It encrypts the password. We can log in if we give it the correct credentials, and it'll direct us to the wall page with the info of the user. And we display the message, welcome user. So today, we're actually going to be doing the assignment, the wall. Right. So yesterday, all that stuff was really extra, right? Because in the So yesterday, the stuff was it was mainly a demonstration on how you build a login and registration, which won't be on the exam, but it's come on. Today we're actually going to be building out, the meat of the project, which is the wall. So you're going to have your messages and your comments, right? So in addition to our users model, we're going to have to create messages model and a comments model, right? And we're going to use our associations that we learned in the Mongoose chapter to help us do that. Now, somehow even the new internet can sense that I'm giving a demo, right? But while this thing is loading up, I'm gonna make a copy of this, and I'm gonna paste this right here, and we're gonna just name this part 2, right? For the sake of GitHub, because if you're following through the first video, you don't want to look at code that is on the second video has. So we're gonna separate those things out. Okay, so this is gonna be wall demo with login, part 2. What is the problem with this? All right, forget that. All right, so we're going to open this project. All right, why did it do that twice? All right, so first things first, sudo mongod. Open a new tab. We're going to run nodemon. Oh, that was for some reason my root directory. This is the one that I want to open nodemon. Okay. So we have that working. We're going to open a new tab, and we're going to open Atom. Okay. So we have our server.js. All that is good. We have everything on client side is working. Now, yesterday when we started building this assignment, we started with the models, right? We started with this user model that we built out, and then we moved on to the front end, and then we kind of worked our way back to the server, right? So today, we're going to do the same thing, right? So instead of user.js, we're going to make another folder here, new folder, and I'm going to call it message.js. And it's singular because it's a model. It's in the model folder, message.js. Oh no, did I make? Okay, it should have been a new file. My bad. So here, new file, message.js. We also need another new file, comment.js. Now, because we did all this stuff yesterday, we can kind of just copy this template over and edit this to make it our message model. So we're requiring Mongoose, as always. This is going to be called the message schema. Here with the capital M, message schema. For the message, I'm going to need the content of the message. So we can say content, like that. It's going to be a string required, min length 3, that's fine. We're going to need not an email, but we are going to need, let's say, user, right? And we'll make it underscore user because that's how we tell that this is not an actual user object, but instead it's an ID that we need to populate. Okay, so if we can get this working, we can look into the associations chapter in Mongoose, and we can get the syntax for creating that association. Now, this is not working, so let me take a look at, let's say, this project. Because I'm just looking for the syntax there, and I'm not, because I can't really remember it, and he didn't use any of that. Nope, this is not the one I want. So this is going to be, we're going to leave this blank for now, okay? So we got a content, we got an underscore user, and we also have the underscore comments, right? And this is plural because it's going to be an array. So get rid of that. This is going to be the association syntax in here as well. Timestamps true, Mongoose model, it's going to be message. And it's going to be message schema. Change the little comment here. So this guy is looking good. All we need is to have the association syntax in there, and it's just not loading. Ah, there we go. Can any of you guys get onto the platform on your computer? Because maybe it'll be working for you guys. So what is, can you tell me the syntax for, oh, I think I have it. Come on, man. It's giving me flashbacks from the fourth floor. All right, looks good. Yes, all right, there we go. Associations, there we go. So we gotta do a type, schema types objects, ref, and then whatever model you're gonna reference. So this guy, we're gonna copy that. We're just gonna put this here. So the type is going to be schema.types.objectsID. That means that the model is expecting that crazy Mongo ID to be saved here. And we need this part, the reference, because when we do populate it, it's going to have to know which collection to go look for those IDs to fill up that data, right? So the user is going to be from the user. It's going to be from the user model. And the comments is going to be from the comment model, right? Like that. So yeah, that's good. This guy is an array. This guy is a singular object. Now, we are going to copy this and post it in the comment.js. And we're going to change all of this stuff from message to comment. Okay. So comment schema, content, still content. Comments will need a user as well. And comments will need a message. Like that. Which message are you being posted on? right? And we might not be using this in this assignment, this field here, but it's good to have this here because later on, if you have for some reason grabbed all of the comments out of the comments collection, you want to be able to have this data to tell you, to let you analyze like the different messages these comments are being posted on, right? So in this case, it's not going to be an array anymore because you can only post a comment to one message. One comment equal to one message, right? So this one is going to be message, and we're going to change this part to comment schema, comment. All right. Did I miss anything? Content, user, message. Nope, we're good. All right. So we just made our model for both of these, comment and message. So now what we got to do is we got to go to, well, while we're here, in the back end, let's go ahead and make our controllers for both of those things. Now, we can leave them blank, but it's good to kind of just make the file like we had with the starter kit. Well, all the files are there, right? So we can make a new file here, messages.js. We got new file, comments.js. So in our controllers, we have these three. In the users.js, we had all this stuff. We are going to need to require Mongoose in our comments and the messages. All right, we can close these guys. We are not going to need bcrypt in the comment or messages. We are, however, going to need to require a model in both of them. And for the comments one, we're going to require the comments model. And we're going to call this variable comment. Or, wait a minute. Yeah, so no S. Yep. And in this guy, we're going to have to require the message model. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write this module exports function, but we're not going to actually populate it or anything like that. So this is the beginning part of it. We're going to post it here, and then we're going to take the end part of it. Yeah, and post it here. Okay, so that closes that.
Why is it like that?
That closes.
Little...
Okay, so you mean this
yeah.
one? All right, so what that does, it runs this function whenever the function is loaded, right? So
it runs what's in there.
Yeah, this function is here, okay? So I put this function in parentheses, meaning that it's one entity, and then I'm just running it with the open and close parentheses here. That's how you run a function, right? You take a thing and you put parentheses, open and close after it to run the thing. So this function, when I'm exporting it, I'm just running it as I export it. So I don't have to run it again later on to make it work, right? So some of you guys, I've seen, it's it wouldn't work because you didn't have this. You didn't run it, right? Only defining a function does not mean that it does anything. Right? It only does something when you run it, right? Okay, so in our return, we can just give it some dummy data like that. We're going to change this later, but it's going to be some kind of function like that, right? And we're going to change this later. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to put it in the comments.js as well. So we're good. We're set up. We have this starter kit going on, right? In the config, we don't really change anything. in the routes, we're just going to be adding new routes here. So here we can copy this little comment here. We can put it here and say this is going to be the message routes. And this one is going to be comment routes. And in terms of the back end, setting things up, we're done. We're going to go to our front end now. And we are going to open our, let's see what we got. You know, we can take a look at what we have. So localhost 9000, I believe. Is it 9000? Crash. Ooh, schema.types object ID is undefined. Right? We didn't create the schema variable. But, you know, we don't really need to. Right? So here it's telling you, yeah, you got to do this. Var schema equals mongoose.schema. But we're really, yeah, that's really all we need to have it in the front here. Mongoose.schema. Because the variable would have just made that, you know, the thing anyways. So we can do this. Now it's working. Good, good. Sweet. All right, so let's log in. Is this the one that I used yesterday? No, user not registered. All right, I'm gonna teach you guys a really helpful trick for developing and debugging, or you know, kind of building out your code. So I'm gonna connect to this in my Mongoose in the Mongo Chef. Right. So I'm connected, and this is the one, login and reg wall demo with the users. These are all my users. All right. So before, because I had those validations in my model, I cannot save an email that is not a valid email. And I cannot save a password that is less than 4 characters. Otherwise, it'll spit me back an error, right? Now, that's really annoying because although it's something I want to use in production, I don't want to have to type in all that stuff every single time I test it, right? So using Mongo Chef or your Mongo terminal commands, you're directly interfacing with the database, and it's bypassing all of the logic in your JavaScript. So here we're gonna just make this user, the email, I'm gonna make it 1, password, I'm gonna make it 1, like that. Okay. So now, if we go over here, hopefully this will work. Password incorrect. Okay. It's incorrect because it's encrypted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hashed.
Here, let me, in my user model, I'm going to get rid of this password min length 4. A min length, I'm going to make it 1 for now. Okay. And we're going to create a new user. So this will not matter because I'm going to change it later. I'm going to make this 1, and we're going to register. Now we're going to go back, and we're going to refresh this, and we see this new user here. We're going to change the email to 1, and the password is still that because it's encrypted, and it was 1, right? So when we want to log in, we can just type 1 and 1, and we can, oh. What was wrong with that?
Oh, because it's validating your password for your login.
Oh, right, for the logins. But, I mean, that shouldn't matter. Yeah. So for some reason it was not registering this. Maybe I need to restart. Yeah, there we go. So for some reason, you had to restart the server. So let's change this back to 1. We're going to restart the server. We're going to go back to our original page. 1, 1. Huh. I guess it has to be at least 2.
Is that written in code?
It's got to be somewhere. I mean, oh. Is it because... Nope, it's going to bypass all of this stuff. But hey, as long as this works. Well, now this is not even working. Email is not registered. Please register instead. Let's try 1 now.
So I ripped that all night last night. That marked that one right there.
Oh. Yeah, it's because this is duplicated. Because this is the same. So I can go ahead and delete this one. Or you click on that and you just click delete, remove. That guy is removed. Now this is 1 and that's 1. Okay. Restart. 1, 1. Boom, I'm in. All right. So I can start testing it very easily. So we can close down Mongo Chef. And this is going to be our wall page, right? We're going to open up the console to see what's up. And here we have in the wall controller. That's good. So we're in the wall controller now. Now, I'm just going to move this to the side over here. Sweet. Now we can go ahead and close all of these guys in the server side because we don't really need them right now. What we are going to need though is the client, static, partials, wall. And also we're going to need the JavaScript with the controllers and the factories. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at what we're trying to make. Or not. We don't need to look at it because we remember what it is, right? So we're going to go into the wall. The wall stuff goes here, right? We did that lovely comment yesterday that tells us what we need to do. So, the first thing we're going to make is a div. Let's go ahead and make a div. We're going to call this input top. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to make like a little form here, or not a form, but like an input field to add a message, right? When we add a message, it's going to add a message down here, and it will display an ng repeat of all of the messages. And once we get that done, we can go ahead and put in the comments part, right? We're going to break it down into modular steps. So there's really no point in working on anything related to comment front end if you don't have messages working already, right? So input top, we're going to have, let's say, input. The type is going to be text, or actually, no, we're going to have the text area, so you can write a long message, right? So we're going to have let's have a label. In the label, we're going to have enter message, and it's going to be text area like that, right? So the text area is going to have, we don't need all this stuff, but we are going to need an ng model, and the ng model is going to be message, or let's call it new message dot content, because that's what we named it in our backend. Okay, so that is going to be enter message, and then that's really the only input field I need, right? And then I'm going to need a button to submit this message. Submit. Now we don't need all this stuff. Of course, it's a type button. We're going to have an ng click though. ng-click is going to connect to submit new message, like that. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. Cool. You know, it's not looking too good, but that's why we have our CSS, right? So move this over here. We're gonna split this guy right, and now we can, you know, put some styles on our wall. So first of all, we're gonna have our input dash top. We're gonna make you outline. Well, we're just gonna do this. We're gonna copy you guys, all of you, over here. We're gonna have you display block. That's, you know, we're not gonna do inline block. We don't have to vertical line you. Outline blue. That's fine. Margin, padding, text align. We want text align left, like that. Right. Good. We're entering message here. We want this label, or we want the text area to be display inline block. Okay. It is inline block. We want you to be display block. That's my bad. Display block. So you're moving to the bottom here. Good. Now we want you to have a width of, let's say, 80% and the height of 200 pixels. Cool. Maybe 100 pixels. 90%. All right. And then we want this button here. Let's call it in the input top. So dot input top button. We're going to have you to be, let's say, float right. Yeah, that. Let's see if this works. Yeah, okay. Cool. So we got, you know, enter message, and we're going to submit it. We're going to be clicking this button to submit it. This one should be that as well, because we don't want to target all of them. We only want to target the ones inside here. Okay. So we're going to enter a message, and when we click it, it's going to run the submit new message function inside of our wall controller. So in our controllers, we have this wall controller here at the bottom. And we are going to make a method, scope dot, the thing I called it, which is submit new message, equals to a function. And the function is going to first console log scope dot new message, like that. And here, the next step is, you know, run the factory method to save the new message. And after I'm done with that, I can refresh this so that I can start over. Okay? Let's see if it works. Enter message. Okay, didn't work. Oh, now it works. I didn't refresh the page. Okay, so good. We're entering message. It's going to console log this content here, and we're gonna run the factory method. But before we do that, we want to make sure that the data that we pass back, this object, is, you know, it's good. It's what we want, right? So right now, all we have is this content. We're also going to need the user ID and the message ID. Those are three pieces of information we need to be able to correctly save this into our database, right? So before we console log it, I'm going to say scope.newMessage dot underscore user equals to this scope.user dot underscore ID, like that. And I'm also going to, right, that's all I need for the message, right? I just need the user, and then the comments array will be empty when I make it, right? So that's all I need. Cool. Good. User undefined. Sweet. All right. Wait. Oh, I didn't. Okay, so I have to log back in every time I refresh the page, apparently. There we go. So there we go with the user ID. All right, as long as this guy is here, I'm good. Maybe we should make it. We should make this thing some other color to make it easier to see, right? So we can have a span be color green. So now it's not there, but if we log back in, oh, we didn't save this. Why is that not working? Oh, well, I mean that's the job for us. You know, we can make the color white. All right, cool. So we can enter a message, we can click submit, and we'll see that we have the content and the underscore user. So it's ready to go to send over to our backend, right? So from our controllers, we're gonna have another factory, right? We're gonna need another factory. So right now we have a login factory, but we're gonna have to make a new factory. It's the wall factory. So app dot factory wall factory. It's gonna have this callback function that takes in the HTTP, and inside of our wall factory, we're going to have a variable called factory equals to this empty object, and we're going to return factory at the end because this guy is an object constructor. It's constructing this object, right? So once we have this done, we should take the name that we gave it and inject that factory in our wall controller because we're going to be using this guy. Okay? So now that we have that factory object available within our controller, we can call a method on it. So wall factory dot, let's say, submit new message. We're going to run that function. We're going to be passing in two arguments. The first argument is this data that we're going to be saving. The second one is going to be a callback function that's going to get back some output. Right? And the output, for now, we can just console log what it is. Right? Now, in the wall factory, we have to now make this method. So we're going to go to the factories. In the wall factory, give it some space to breathe. Here, we're going to say factory dot submit new message equals to this function that takes in two arguments. The first is the data. The second is the callback. Right? And just to be consistent with what we did before, we can call it input because this is something that somebody types in. input. Okay, so from here, we're going to make the HTTP post request to a special route that we will later define. And that route will do the job in our backend to save this data. So we're going to post to, let's say, messages new, like that. Now you can make this anything you want, but this is pretty explicit, so that's good. So the input is going to be here passed in the post, and then when it's done saving and I get back a response, we're going to run this function with the output that's being passed in, and it's going to say we just added a new message, like that. And we're going to run the callback passing back the output. Great. Cool. So now what do we got to do? We got to go and make this route in our routes.js, right? So I'm just going to make this a little bigger so we can see it. We're going to go to our server side now. Following the trail of everything that's going on, we're going to go to our routes.js. In our messages, routes, we're going to create a new post route, like that. And we're going to name this the same name. So it was messages new, like that. And then it's going to run not the users, it's going to run the messages dot something, right? Messages dot, I'm just going to say add message, like that. Now, if we run the code right now, it's going to tell us messages is undefined, right? Because we did not require it yet. If you're going to use the variable, you need to make sure that you define the variable and you have methods in there that you can use. So we're going to copy this. We're going to make this variable messages. We're going to require our messages.js, like that. So when this function runs, it's going to run our controller's messages.js. This guy is going to be add message, like that. So it's going to run this function when that route is hit. Now, this is a good point to kind of go in and see if so far we've made it to this part, right? If the things that we just did were correct and there were no bugs, then if I do log something here, like that, make this dot blue, or let's make it yellow so we can see it better. And then we console log rec dot body, like that. Then we should have a very good idea if we got here or not, right? So let's go ahead and notice that NodeMon restarted my server every single time the server files change. It does not restart it when the client-side files change, because it won't know. But if the client-side files change, I need to restart this. I need to refresh the page, and I got to go back and log in. Right? So in the login method users controller, that's good. That's what we did yesterday. And we are going to add new message. Submit. Boom. Content new message underscore user is this user ID. So far we've made this point, and now we can start using this data to actually make our new message, right? So how do we make a new message? Var message equals to, and this can be anything. Some people are lazy, they'll just be like var m, right? You can do that. Var m equals to new message. And in here is going to be the object that I save. The content is going to be rec.body.content. And we know that this exists because we console logged it and we see it here, right? So the content is going to be that. The underscore user is going to be rec.body. What is it? rec.body.underscore user. Underscore user, like that. And we don't need to, give it a comment in the comment field because it's an empty array and we don't want to put anything in there anyways, right? So it's going to remain empty. Now, it's always a good idea to kind of, console log this after it's made, but we can do that after it's saved, right? So m.save, the save will take in a callback function and return some errors if there is an error. So we can say if there is an error, we're going to log, there was an error when saving a message. Make this .red. Else, we can console log m to see that to see the thing that we just saved, right? To make sure that it's good. And then we might want to console log successfully saved the above message. And we're going to make this guy .green. And once we do that, we can return, we got to return something, right? We got to return some data. What is it that we want to return after we have created a new message? We want to return all of the messages, right? Because then we'll have all of the messages to display on our view that will now reflect the changes that we made to it with the addition of a new message, right? But it doesn't look like we have that, that route, right? But we're going to need it later on when we first load the wall, right? So we can go ahead and let's just make that here. We're going to make get all messages, and it's going to be function with the rec and res. This guy is going to, we're going to get all the messages, right? So it's going to be message dot find all of it, and we're going to have to, right, we can't just do the old way. So the old way is doing this. Function, error, message, and then we're good. We can do our stuff here. But in this case, we're missing the user and the comments, right? So let's populate the user first, and we'll worry about populating the comments later on. Because right now we don't have any comments, right? So as long as we can populate the user, then we're good and in good shape, right? So let's see if we can access this internet if we cannot. So I believe the syntax is like this. It's you close that dot populate, and then the thing that you're gonna, it's the field that you're populating. In this case, underscore user dot execute, and in the execute, you run the callback function with the error and the message. We'll just call it M. Okay, so I think that's the way it works. So once we do find it, we can say if there's an error, we're just gonna write a message here to tell us that there's an error. There was an error when getting all messages, like that. Or else we're gonna res.json m. And this guy is gonna be an array of messages. Now, if there are no messages, that's just gonna be an empty array, right? But that doesn't mean there's an error. It'll still be good. So we can do this, just so we can see it on our terminal. M successfully got all messages, like that. All right, we're being very explicit here. Cool. So if we reload the page, All right, so here we didn't do anything yet, right? We didn't connect it to this guy. But you know, I want it so that when I load this page, it goes and gets me all the messages to begin with, right? So we gotta write that in our wall factory. So here, if you see something with the scope equals to function, that doesn't get run when you load up this controller. But if it's not in the function, it will run, like if it's out here, right? So if we want this to just run when this thing loads, you know, I'm gonna just run the method here. So it's gonna be wall factory. Oops, crap. Wall factory dot get all messages, and I'm gonna pass in a callback, which is a function with some data, the output, and I'm going to set scope dot messages equals to this output, right? So therefore I'm going to have to define scope dot messages up here and make it, what is it? Is it an array? Object. It's an array, right? So it starts out as an empty array, and then the factory will go get some stuff from the database and put it in that array. All right, so because we wrote this method here, we're going to have to write it in our factory. So in our wall factory, we're going to have factory dot get all messages. That's going to be equal to a function that takes in a callback. That's the only argument it takes in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this route, and it's going to be a get request to messages underscore / all, right? So because it's a get request, there is no input to be passed in. It cannot pass an input because it's a get request. Output, we just got all messages. There we go. We just got all messages. Callback output. Good. So because we made this request, we're going to go to our routes, and we're going to make that get request. Get messages all, and it's going to be in our message.js. This is the function name that I called it, so we have to be consistent and use that name over here. Okay, it's going to run here, it's going to go in here, it's going to go find, populate my user, and it's going to return JSON like that. Okay, so if we refresh the page now, we should see that it got all the messages, which is an empty array, right? So that worked. So in here it says in the wall controller, we just got all messages, so we're good, right? And it's always good to kind of to console log the thing that you're getting back, right? So then you know what it is, and you can make entry repeat to dig into that data. So I'm gonna just console log that. And if we refresh it, we'll see that it's an empty, this is an empty array of length 0, right? So we don't really need all this stuff, so that instead of returning back the output as it is from the factory, we should just return back output.data, because that's the only part of the output that we want, right? So now, yeah, you see, empty array. Good. Cool. So after we add a message in our messages.js in our back end, we want to res.redirect to, what is this route? Messages all, right? There. So after we have successfully saved the above message, we're going to redirect to this route, and the route should redirect back to this guy, and it should be passing back the array of all of the data, right? So, but before we do anything with that, we have to go in our controller and make sure we can handle that. So submit new message, wall factory submit new message. The output should be saved in this scope.messages, because that's the array of messages we're getting back. Okay. Now, let's take a look. We're going to have to go out and re-log in. We're going to say, this is the first message. Submit. And boom. Here, we have successfully saved the above messages, which is this one. And then this is all of the messages. Successfully got all the messages. Right? As we can see, comments is empty. The user, there's an ID in there. The ID of the message itself is a crazy Mongo ID, and the content is this is the first message. Good. So over here on our client side, we see we have an object with this message. We just added a message. Cool. And the reason why we got this stuff is because we didn't account for that in our factory over here. Over here, when we return from submit a new message, we need to send back the output.data as well, so we don't get all of the other crap. Okay. So now that we have this working, let's take a look at our object. So it looks like our underscore user actually has the user data, which is great because the .populate.execute worked. Okay. So now that we have this, we can go in and just go ahead and display our messages, right? So inside of our wall.html, let's make another div. We're going to call this messages div. In the messages div, we're going to do an ng repeat on this guy. Ng repeat. That guy is going to be equal to m in messages. And inside here, we're going to have, let's say, another div. Message content. And here we're going to have p tag. And this is going to be m.content, like that. Okay. And after this, we're going to have, let's say, well, I guess we don't need this one. We'll just have p and then another p for m dot underscore user dot name. All right. Let's take a look if we have anything showing up. Cool. This is the first message and then the name. Right? Maybe we can put like a little hyphen there. That. Cool. So we have this class messages, so we can give it some styling. Dot messages. I want you to have an outline and margin and a padding like that. We can make this blue just so we can kind of see it, right? Good. This is the message. All right. So I can give this as guide class message content, like so. And we'll make your color, let's make it blue. Okay. This wasn't saved. Cool. So we got the message and we got the user. Now, inside of this message, this box here, and we should really make this guy green. So it's different from this one. All right, so that is going to be a message. We want a text field here that allows us to submit a comment, right? So here we're going to need another one of these, a label. It's going to be enter comment. And it's going to have text area new comment. dot content like that. And here it's going to be submit new comment. Okay. Now let's take a look. Cool. More or less looks like what I want. I can kind of give it some styling here so that it looks, presentable. Let's say dot messages. In the messages, I have the label or the text area. I want you to be display block, and I want this button to be floating to the right, and I want your text area to be with, well, let's say 70%, height 70 pixels, and I want everything in this text area to be to the right, so I can make you float, or I can make you let's make it position, or no, that'll mess up the button. So we'll make you float right as well. Okay. Ooh, didn't mess up the button. So the easy way would just be to make a div, put it in here, and have it text align right. Comment field, like that. So we're not going to float you guys, but we are going to have dot that. Okay, cool. This guy needs to go over. So let's see. The text area margin left, we'll just make it 300 pixels. Okay, 200. All right, I mean, more or less, it looks like what we want. Say 220. Cool. All right, so we have our message and we have our comment section here. Now, when we click this button, we want it to run a function in our controller, the show new comment function. So we're going to go in our controller. We're going to go ahead and write that function. Scope dot submit new comments equals to function, and here we're going to, it's going to run the thing in here when we click it. So let's see what we got to do, right? When we're creating a new comment, the thing we're going to need is the user, same as before. This is a new comment. We are also going to need the post, the message ID, right? So new comment dot underscore message is going to be the message ID. So what's the message ID? We can pass it in as an argument. Because we did this ng repeat, the M that I'm talking about in this context is going to be that specific message. And the specific message will have a specific underscore ID that I can pass in as an argument. So now it'll be saved here, and I can just save that ID right there. So I'm going to have the content, the underscore user, and the underscore message. And if we log that, scope.new comment, we should see all three of them. All right. So again, we're going to have to go out, re-log in. Now, if I add something, cannot set property underscore user undefined. Okay, it's telling me that new comment is undefined. So let's go back here. Okay, so we ran into a little problem here, but that's all right. You know, the goal is to be able to debug and fix these problems, right? So the first thing I'm going to do to debug this problem is I'm going to console log scope.newComment and see what it is. All right, we're going to refresh, go back. When we add a new comment, undefined. See, that's not good. Did we misspell something here? Huh. Well, let's try this. When I submit new comment, I want to log scope dot content like that, and we can get rid of all this stuff for now. Right? Undefined. Okay. I think I know what the problem is. So if you do ng repeats, the ng model is only local to that ng repeat, so you cannot find it in your controller by just accessing the scope variable. So we're going to have to pass it in as an argument, like we did with the ID. Right? So we're gonna. So this is all good, as long as we pass in this object. So what we're going to pass in is the content. So it's going to be the ID and then the content. And then we're going to make a new variable that is this new comment. And we're going to make this an empty array or empty object. And we're going to say new comment dot underscore ID, or the new comment dot, what is it, underscore user is equals to this ID of the user, which is going to be scope dot underscore user ID. We're also going to need to add the content. The content is going to be this content. And we also have the underscore message, and that is going to be this ID. Okay, so now that we have that settled, we can log this new comment variable to see that if we got all of our goodies in there. Right? We're going to go to our wall. We're going to pass in not only the ID, but also this content that I made in the ng model. Okay, because it's local to here, within this scope, I can still access it, just not within the global scope. Okay, so let's take a look. Yeah, so we got it. User, content, message. Now, every time I refresh it, I have to go back, which is a pain. So, you know what? as soon as I get to my wall controller, before I do anything, so even before I create these blank variables there, I'm going to have a function to check if I have a scope.user here, right? It's going to go to our factory. It's going to go try and get the scope.user. And I can say, hey, if the data that I got back, if there is no data, if it's undefined, then I want to kick the user back to the login page. Right? So you cannot go to this page if this is blank. So using that, we can write, we're going to have to pass in location, that dependency, and it's going to be $location.url, and this is going to be the URL of the login, like that. Okay. Now we can take a look at our index. Okay, there is no login route. It's just the root. It's the root route. So we can go back and just change that to the root. And if we refresh, it should kick us. Ooh, okay. Wait, what is controllers? This is the message. Let's see. Let's log this to see what it is. 73. It's an object. It's a blank object. So blank objects by default are considered they're considered truthy values, right? So it's still a truthy value. So what I can do is I can say, hey, if data equals to blank object, then I'm going to do that. Okay. Oh, it's an array of objects. Wait. Or I can say, here, if not data dot underscore ID. There we go. If you don't have that property, I'm going to kick you back. There we go. So that worked. So we can log back in, and it won't kick us back because we do have an ID. If we refresh the page and we don't have an ID, it'll kick us back. Good. Cool. So I know that when I type something in, I have this object that I can pass to my backend now to save this comment. So we are going to go ahead and do that. We're going to run the factory method to save the comment, the new comment. Wall factory.submit new message. It's going to be submit new comment. Scope.new comment. Function output. Great. So I'm still getting back all of the messages in the full array. So I can update my entire wall, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go into my factory and make that message, or that method, I mean, sorry. So over here, we're going to say submit new comment. It's going to be an input, callback, post, comments, new, inputs, then console log, we just added a new comment. Callback output.data. Good. Now we missed something before we went over. We are not submitting this. We are submitting this object that we created, right? So we're going to pass in the argument of this new object that we created so that we're saving the correct comment. So in our factory, we're still going to get the input here. It's going to go to this route, post comments new with the input, and we're going to run this stuff, same as before. So now we have to go to our routes. We're going to add a new post. And this one is a comment. It's a comment route, right? So we got to put it in our comments. It's an app.post, comments, new, And this time it's going to be comments.add comment, like that. And we're going to have to require our comments controller, like we did before, so that we can use this method. All right, so now in the comments we have this add comment method. So let's take a look at what add message looks like. Now we're going to make the mirror image of this guy inside of our comments controller. So not client side, server side, controllers, comments.js. This is the one I'm going to do. It's going to be add comment. Same thing here. We're going to make var comment, var c equals to new comment. The content is going to be rec.body.content. The underscore user is going to be rec.body.user. And the one other thing we're going to need is the underscore message is going to be rec.body.underscore message. Right? That's what we have over here. Underscore message, underscore user, content. Good. Now, this is the part where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Not very tricky, but a little bit tricky. So, before I'm going to save this, I'm creating this guy, right? But, you know, the thing is that we not only have to update our comment model in our database, we're also going to have to update the message one, because the message is really the one that holds on to all of the array of comments, right? So because we have this rec.body.underscore message, that's the ID of the message, we can go ahead and find our one message. If we're going to do that, we're going to have to require the model for message in our comments.js. Message, like that. So now we can go message.find1. So it doesn't return me back an array, but instead an object. This is going to be the underscore ID of it is going to be this, rec.body.message. And then I'm going to run the callback function with the error and the one message, like that. Close this guy. In here, if there's an error, I'm going to say there's an error, or else I'm going to modify this message, right? So in this one message that I got back, there is a property called underscore comments. That's an array, right? We defined it as an array. It's an empty array right now. So we're going to have to push our new comment in here, right? But before we can have the ID, the crazy Mongo ID to push, we're going to have to save it, right? So c.save function error. If there's an error, we're going to log error, or else if we get down to here, we know it's already saved, right? Because it's now saved, we can run this message.find1 stuff in here. And this is the part where we know the comment is already saved. So now we're going to find the one message, and then we're going to push the c._id into that array of comment IDs. Now once we do that, we got to save the changes, right? Because if we don't save the changes, we just did that for nothing. So one message dot save function error. If error, we're going to log error, else we're good to go. We're good to go back, right? So we can say we successfully added the above message and then redirect to messages all, like that. Okay, we successfully saved the comment. We successfully saved a comment, and we're redirecting to messages all because we want to get all of the messages and send them back as JSON, right? So I know it looks a little messy here, but this is kind of the logic that you have to follow if we're going to have everything correctly saved into our associations. Okay. Now we can give this a try, and we can go and look at. It's not going to show me the comments, but if we do save it, we can always go into Mongo Chef and see if the comment is there, right? If there is no errors, then it should be there. 1 So this is the first comment. Submit. Okay, it looks good. We successfully saved the comment, successfully got all messages. In here, we have our underscore comments with the comment ID that I just added, right? So maybe here I'll add another one. Second comment, submit. Now there's two IDs here in our comments array, right? So right now, if we look at our object that we got back, this one, or not, this is another one. Let's refresh this. This is the object that we're getting back. Let's see, got all messages, there we go. This is the object. So we, in our comments, we have an array of these two IDs, but we need to show the actual comment and not the ID, so we need to populate it, right? So if we can get these IDs to be turned into objects, then we're good, right? We can access them, we can display them down here, and then we're done. That's all we have. So I really, really hope that this internet is working, because I found this nifty, I'm gonna reset this real quick. There we go, just need to reset it. So here, so I Googled, basically this is what I Googled. How to populate a populated field in Mongoose. So if you Google that, you'll see that Stack Overflow, the first one, you click into it. And over here, down here, there's one really good example. And that one is this one, right? So we found the thing, we .populated. The path was user ID. Well, we populated the path user. And then they're going to populate it again with another path. And then you run the execute function, right? So following this syntax here, we are going to modify our populate code to be able to account for another populate field after the first populate field, right? So let's go over here for our messages.js. Get all messages. This is where we populate stuff, right? So here it's a path, and then we're going to populate another path like that. So in here, we're going to add that. This path is going to be underscore user dot populate path underscore comments, like that. Okay. Now let's go back and see if our hard work is paid off. And when we dig into this object, we're gonna see, oh no, didn't work. Okay, this is not, okay, it's not working because it's not a populated field that I'm populating. So the thing to Google is how to populate multiple fields Mongoose. Yeah. So he ran 2.populates, and it doesn't look like it worked for him. After looking at source code, we solve this path. Ah, there we go. So it's an array of these paths, right? So we're making an array. In the array, we're going to have path user, like that. And then we're going to have another one. So we get rid of this. And in the populate, we're going to have the array path underscore user and then path underscore comments. Like that. Okay? So now, if we run this, in the object, comments, yeah, we got the object. We got the comment object back. So if you're going to populate multiple fields, that's how you would do it. And see, like things like this, you might find on the exam where it's like a curveball, right? You've done it one way before. I know how to populate, multiple fields, but now all of a sudden, if they're asking you to populate an already populated field, so for example, if the comments had other comments, then the comments would be a populated field, and then in the populated field, you would have to now populate other things in that populated field. And then you would use the syntax that I used before to do that. But if you can't find it, just Google that. Google, how do I populate an already populated field, Mongoose? And the Stack Overflow will give you the answer, right? So, one of the great things about being a developer nowadays is that the resources are just there. They're out there. You can do anything you want as long as you know where to look.
Yeah,
right?
You need another question to ask.
Right. So
I was like, populate what?
now that we have, so it's been an hour and 22 minutes. I'm going to finish this up within 10 minutes, and then we'll be done. All right. So now in our wall, all we're going to have to do is we're going to need another ng repeat over here. We're going to write this as comment div. We're going to have the ng repeat equals to C in, okay, what is it that I'm looking at? I'm looking at the comment array that I need to populate. Okay, so that is going to be in the message dot underscore comments, right? So C in m dot underscore comments. That is the array that I'm looking at with all the objects. So in here, I'm going to say I want the C dot content. And down here, I want the C dot, what is it? The comment, oh, okay. So I'm going to still need to populate the user here, right? Because the comment underscore user is this user ID. Right? So how now I got to populate a populated field already, right?
Hey.
So that's
So
good.
That was on the exam.
Right, exactly. And this is good because we're showing you how to do it now. So in the
Yeah.
exam, then you know how to do it. It takes a little more time, but it's good to see it now rather than later.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna put
I'm just gonna be YouTubing.
C dot underscore user for now, and we can take a look at the ID. It's going to print out the user ID down here. This is the first comment, and then with the user ID, like that. Okay, so let's make our, so that'll be our final step to populate this guy. So we're gonna have, let's say, comments outline. We're gonna make this outline orange. Everything is gonna be text line right. Okay. Cool. So we got our message box, comment box, enter comment. If I enter a comment, I'm going to see that the new comment has showed up. But right now it's a user ID and not the actual user object that I need, right? So we're going to go back to the original depopulate, populate a populated field. That's what's deep populate, right? We're going to go and look at the one that we were looking at before, which is, let's see, this guy, right? Now, we're going to use this in one of our populates, in the comments populate. Because in the comments populate, we're going to now populate the users as the deep populate, right? So going to our messages with the populate, we can close our CSS now. We don't need it. This one is fine. That's the message user. This one is the comments that we need to depopulate. Right, so this guy is going to be like that. Here we're going to do the underscore comments like before, and here we're going to populate the underscore user of that comment. Right? It's like another one of those moments where it's like, yo dog, I heard you like populate things. All right, so this does not look like it worked. There's an unexpected token.
User.
Line 14, this one. Ah, we need another one of these, right? Because this is closing that, and then this is closing that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. All right. So what do you think is going to happen if it works? Instead of the user ID, I'm going to see an object. Yeah, look at that. The full user object. Now what I need is the name, right? So I'm going to go over here into the wall and just put .name like that. So it should show me just the name of the user that commented on it. Boom. And we're done, right? We can add another comment, we can add another message here, submit, and we'll see it down here. We can add another comment, boom. It's working. Right. Thank you. All right, so it's an hour, 28 minutes. I'm gonna, we're gonna call it a demo, probably a record, but at least you guys will have this now and look over it before the exam and kind of, let this sink in, right? We didn't